Welcome back to Stuff About Money. I'm Xavier Angel, certified financial planner, joined today by Erik Garcia, certified financial planner. How you doing today, Erik?
I'm doing well, man. How are you? Today is the first, it is February 2nd. It's the first day of, let's call it, real Mardi Gras parades. So I'm looking forward to
We're about to get up and running. Speaking of Mardi Gras parades.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Dude, I never knew that you were homecoming king in high school.
Oh, Lord have mercy. What is this?
Wait,
what does this have to do with Mardi Gras, and why is this coming up?
Because I was thinking about Mardi Gras kings and the parades, and
why are you thinking about me in high school?
And king, wow, man,
King royalty.
I would have never known.
What is that supposed to mean?
So one more thing.
What is that supposed to mean? You would have never known.
Before the end of the day, you've got to tell me the story about how your room got painted in high school.
Lord have mercy. What the hell? What's going on? What?
Unless you want to tell us now.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I heard bits and pieces of it. So happy Mardi Gras. But anyway, today is going to be great.
Have I done something to you?
No.
Do we need to talk about something? Do I need to confess something to you, or do we need to reconcile our relationship that would cause you to
reminisce? Hey, we are family now, right? So we're starting to learn more and more about each other. So congratulations.
You must have been talking to my wife or my mom or something.
It's been we're going on 4 years of our partnership here at Plan Wisely.
4 years.
4 years.
Is it that long?
It has. Seems like just yesterday.
Feels that long. No, it feels like 10.
And I also want to tell you congratulations on getting your ChFC, your Chartered Financial Consultant
Thank you,
designation.
Yes.
It took you long enough.
I know, dude. I've been chasing you for a while. I can see your certificate over your shoulder.
Yes.
I don't know if people can make that out, but I think you put it there to flex.
I did. I've got the CFP on the other side and Loyola University behind me. So yeah, I'm trying to flex every time.
I got those in front of me. My Tulane, my CFP. I'm gonna get my ChFC certificate. Yeah, I mean,
we started down this road back in, it had to be 2008, 2009. Well, our first designation, designation, which was the CLTC, Certified Long-Term Care Consultant. Mm-hmm. We started that back in 2007.
No, I didn't get that designation. We met in 2007 or 8. 2007 at a I think it was an estate planning CE course or a course for one of the designations, either LUTCF or FSS or something. And I never finished getting that designation.
See, I thought it was a CLTC.
No, I was never in that course.
Okay. Well, then if it was, it would have been a ChFC. So that's where we started.
No, you're clearly the better academic than I heard.
That's what I heard.
Who told you that?
I cannot say who told me that.
Yeah, so we met in 2007.
We were having a conversation about that. So we were talking about high school, and all of this came up. So
since we're reminiscing.
Yes, let's reminisce.
In 2007, I was 10 years out of high school. We were both young in our careers, and clearly we both valued, I guess, growing and educating, growing in our industry. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the chartered financial, I started down that path. I want to say like in 2014, and then something changed. I think it was the work that I was doing with Dr. Matt Morris and kind of the collaboration that we were doing, and I realized like, oh, I want to do more of the certified financial planner work. And the reality is the core coursework is almost identical. It's very similar. And I switched course in 2014 or 15 down the CFP path and finally got that in 17. And then I needed a bunch of CE credit and realized I could take 2 more courses they were like practical application of financial planning. We had to write like 5 or 6 financial plans with business owners, divorced couples, special need planning. So
But all in
it was an
all,
opportunity to go ahead.
Opportunity, and also it also helped you to continue your education and hone your skills. I mean, I think that's the most important thing about going through these designations. I mean, it helps us, right?
Yeah, and I think if I were to relate this back to money for our listeners, there's value in growing in your space, right? You and I work in several niche markets. And, on the insurance side, there's the CIC. It seems to be one that a lot of people are getting. But when you grow and you learn and you start to get more specialized in your niche, I think that's good. I think that's
well, a lot of these courses, depending on when you take them, all the material is updated. So it's also allowing us the opportunity to stay up on whether it's from a tax standpoint, estate planning. They're changing laws and regulations on a regular basis.
Constantly.
So congratulations, man. I'm glad you finally catching up with me.
I feel educated.
Yeah,
I did get my CFP before you, though.
You did. So, but I got my ChFC before you. So.
Yeah, so let's reminisce a little bit more. Let's talk, man. Let's tell some stories here. Let's tell some stories. So we met in 2007, and we hit it off. Mm-hmm. You tell some story, which I don't remember this, man. You tell
about the shoes.
Yeah, I do not remember that. I do not remember that at all.
We're sitting in the class, and we both were fairly new in the industry. We were probably, if I remember correctly, we were the two youngest people sitting in that room. Mm-hmm. I would venture to say no one else was probably within 5 to 8 years of our age. And I needed some shoes because I love my shoes.
Why were we talking about shoes in a course on estate planning?
I have no idea. I mean, that was 17 years ago.
I think he's making this up.
So all the stories I could make up would be about shoes.
Mm-hmm. If there's
I could find a better one than shoes. But we wound up going out and we went out
shoe shopping together.
Together.
Xavier and I went shoe shopping together. Y'all believe that? That sounds like some made up story.
If I remember correctly, it was buy one get one 50% off, and we split the cost on these shoes.
And good budding financial planners that we were, who were frugal, wanted to save money, right? Is
that's what it was? And if the other thing, I believe that class happened in the first quarter of the year.
I have no idea when.
So we would be hitting. I was with Mass Mutual at the time.
Okay.
And so Homer Fuquay. You remember Homer?
I can never say his last name.
Homer Fuquay. So he was he was a general manager who put this program on. And
he just used that. He used that as a recruiting tool.
It was a recruiting tool. Correct. I mean, ultimately, he wanted to get you over.
Yeah.
He probably put me up to taking you shoe shopping to build that relationship with you.
Are you serious?
I think
now I believe that. I believe that.
So, I mean, that was a tactic that he would have used. Go out there and build a relationship with this guy, Erik Garcia.
So you're like a mole.
Right? And
right.
over the next 13 years, I mean, I can remember us having conversations about who was going to make a change first. Were you?
Yeah, we joked who's going to recruit who first.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and here I am. 40 years later, we made that move. We merged our practices.
And your life has never been better and more complete, right?
And I would say that about you as well. I think I've made you more well-rounded.
Oh, yeah. Yes, because you take me to Tonlene Kitchen every day and feed me banh mi sandwiches.
Culture.
Bang, banh mi.
I bring culture. But I gotta say, I think from a planning standpoint, we make each other better. We make each other whole. Because we're learning and we're teaching each other things constantly.
Yeah, I think this goes back to, and I wanted to bring up last week's or the last episode on resolutions, and I think sometimes we have these conversations that I think are like really good and deep conversations, and then we move on. And not just us, but people in general. Like, I think sometimes our culture moves so fast, we don't sit in one thing long enough and reflect and consider. And I was listening to the episode because I'll listen to our podcast episodes for a couple reasons. One is just to make sure that they came out all right. But man, like, I get inspired going back and listening to some of the things that you say, some of the things I say. Sometimes I'll give advice, and it's as though I'm giving it to myself. So I'll listen. Like, this is I need to hear this over and over and over again because I will get sidetracked. I will lose focus. And we talked about accountability. And just this morning, in that episode, I talked about the big ass calendar that I can see kind of my year. Visually, I'm looking at it right now. I can see what my conferences are and some other things. But one thing I did, and I updated it this morning, I wanted to keep a 1-page annual plan by month. So I got my big annual plan, and then I want to break it down January. What are some things I want to stop doing in January? No, we're in February, so I redid it this morning. What are some things I want to stop doing in February? What are some things that I want to start doing in February? What are the key metrics that I want to track for my business, right? And that kind of keeps that keeps my mind focused on the activity that needs to be done to meet those metrics. Then I also have some personal things in there. What are some physical, spiritual, emotional disciplines that I want to pick up in February? And some of them are an extension from January. So my goal for this year is to every month at the beginning of the month is to go back, look at the previous months, see how I did on those things, and then what I want to do for the next month. But all that in keeping in mind and pointing me towards my annual goal and in the goals that I set out for the year. So one of the pieces of advice that I gave myself at the beginning of the year we talked about was spend more on experiences with my family. So I took that as a result of our podcast episode. I took that was one of the individual kind of tasks or goals. I took that and I put it at the top. So that's going to stay fixed on that 1-pager for the entire year to remind me.
Okay. Have you put anything down yet? Do you know what you're going to do? Can you share it with us?
I can share some of it with you, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Accountability.
What do you want to know? Yeah. So no, some of it's content creation.
Okay.
Right? One of the things I want to do is just add a ton of value to my clients. So some of it has to do with what are some content things that we want to create. So I would say the first part of this year, you and I have talked about really emphasizing estate planning. Talking about trusts and wills and those types of things, beneficiary designations. My goodness,
succession
people,
planning.
If you're listening, let me put a signpost right here. If you're listening, go check all your beneficiaries real quick on your life insurance and retirement accounts. All right. So
one of the other ones, and you mentioned a couple of them, but for our business owners that are listening, the other part is succession planning.
Yeah, as part of estate planning, 100%. Right.
So,
because your business is a large part of your estate, 100%.
Right.
So one of it is content around estate planning. It's I'm having coffee, I think, next week with an estate attorney who does some wills and successions. I want to pick his brain and maybe plan out a podcast with him. And you do some work closely with an estate attorney as well. So we're talking about maybe bringing her on. So that's part of the objectives for February. And then just some personal things, from a physical standpoint and health standpoint.
And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking, and I want to stress this as well. We all here make sure we check our beneficiaries. And we go and we check our life insurance policies and our IRAs. But I think the one place we forget, that people forget to check their beneficiaries, is on their company-sponsored life insurance or 401ks. So definitely go out there, not just with the stuff that you're working with your financial advisor, but your company sponsored benefits. Check your beneficiaries. All too often I get in there and the individuals have not designated a beneficiary on their 401k. So make sure you're getting in there and checking on that stuff as well.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I have set out for February. We also have I have a couple of traveling, a couple trips scheduled. We're going to New York, do some college visits with my daughter, and then I have an annual retreat that I go on. And then we have a colleague of ours coming in town next week. By the time you're listening to this, it will have already happened. We have a colleague coming in town, so we're gonna do a fishing trip or something.
Fly fishing.
Fly fishing.
I don't know anyone in South Louisiana that fly fishes.
So you'll know me soon. I'm a fly fish. Never fly fished before. So
are you getting in the water or are you fly fishing from the boat?
I'm not getting in the water, dude. I'm not getting in the water.
I'm just, you talk, you talk fly fishing.
We're sharing and telling stories here. You know, one of my fears in life are.
What is it?
My biggest fears in life is being in water where I can't see my feet.
Well, you don't get in the water anywhere in South Louisiana then, do you? Outside of a pool.
I do. I just don't I don't know. Maybe I saw Jaws too much. Maybe just, growing up as the child of Cuban immigrants and hearing all the stories of sharks in the Caribbean. I don't know, dude. I don't play with water where I can't see my feet.
Well, let's hope Rich doesn't get upset with you and push you off, because I know you guys love to talk about planning and using some of the tools that we have and sharing knowledge.
Well, so this is a kind of a free for all episode here. One of the here's this is interesting, right? We started talking about education and learning and growing and kind of expanding our knowledge in our space. But there's also something to be said about being in groups with other professionals in your space, with other advisors. Rich is a financial planner as well. And we kind of approach planning. We have a couple, we approach it from a different perspective. We have a different philosophy. So over the years, I like to think that I've sharpened his skill and made him a little bit better as a planner. And he certainly made me a better planner. So having those times with other, advisors, and that was really the genesis of our relationship. For 13 years, we would connect, we would talk shop, we would tell stories about client cases that we were working on. We would give each other input. Hey, I've dealt with that before. Here's how I would have dealt with it, and I get to see how you dealt with it. And that's really kind of why we ended up getting together, because we realized, man, there's an alignment in value here. There's enough difference that forces us to become better, but there's also an alignment in values. So,
I think the other part of that is, and this is one of the things that attracted me to say, you know what, let me go ahead and make that move. We have an individual, Rich, who's in a different part of the country. So how they deal with things in the Northeast versus how we deal with things down here in Louisiana. I mean, we can learn off of each other. I was telling you, Rich called me a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and Rich had a question about this married couple and what happens if they die, and I answered it, right? And Rich, he was like, "How'd you know that?" I was like, "Well, Rich, we live in a community property state, so half of mine is half of Maureen's, and vice versa." And it threw him for a loop, and he had to remember that you do have a couple states that are community property states within the country.
Yeah, especially that we have clients all over the country. So that's
right.
That's important. And that's part of the estate planning thing that we want to to visit and emphasize in the beginning part of the year with people is like, I mean, look, life happens. This is why we do financial planning the way that we do. We don't see financial planning as a one-time event. I mean, financial planning is like an ongoing process, right? Because there's always new input. There's always law changes. There's always something that's going to I would say, challenge maybe some of the decisions that we've made financially that we need to adjust to.
Right.
And that's why we've kind of built our business on that model of, hey, we're going to build our practice, our financial planning practice, on this idea that financial planning is ongoing. You're not going to pay me one time up front. You're going to pay me ongoing. We're going to meet on a regular basis. Regular might look different for different people, because some people want to meet on a more regular schedule, and some people are good with a little bit more space. Some people need a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more direction. Some people are a little bit more of a do-it-yourselfer. But yeah, man, financial planning is ongoing, constantly changing, and that's why we've decided, hey, we think that this is best for our clients.
We're growing with our clients, and our clients are growing with us.
Yeah,
and I've seen it. I've seen it over the past 4 years.
This goes back to the podcast from the last podcast on resolutions. Why I don't like resolutions, because no one keeps their resolution, and part of the problem is we don't have accountability. So what we get to do as financial planners is in a certain sense, we become that accountability on your financial goals. Right. You tell us what's important to you. We put together a plan with you to meet those objectives, those goals, right? And then we help you implement and execute and maintain that as we go. And as new input comes in, we adjust the plan accordingly. That's part of that accountability. And that's why, man, look, if 1% of Americans keep their resolutions, okay, that's not a big number. And we know that the majority of resolutions have to do with finances and health, right? Physical health and mental health. Well, it stands to reason that if you're picking something that's really important to you that you want to change in your life, hire somebody who's going to help you execute on those things. Whether it's a fitness expert, whether it's a financial planner, a therapist. If you're looking on trying to get emotionally healthy, if you're trying to up your leadership game as an executive, hire an executive coach, right? It stands to reason that you would spend money, right? We talk about this all the time. We want to align our spending with what we value. If I value getting my finances in order, if I value putting myself in a financial position to where I can sell my business sooner than later, retire earlier than most people. Well, it stands to reason that you would spend your money on bringing someone in who's going to help you actually do that.
Well said, man. Can I change this? I'm going to change the subject, Erik. So
we've been changing the subject the entire episode.
I know it's a free for all. So I did want to mention today is it's February, which is Black History Month, and so did you know today?
Happy Black History Month, Xavier.
Thank you.
For those who didn't know, Xavier is, even though I call him Javi, he's really not Hispanic. Although he can celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month now, so he gets 2 months.
By association, I feel like I've been immersed in the Hispanic community. I want to say this before I move on, but Grace is probably one of the most diversified children in her understanding of different cultures. Being immersed in the Hispanic culture, the Indian community. When we do Garba every year, Grace now has traditional Indian outfits that she'll wear when we go to Garba. Okay. Erik, did you know on February 3rd, on this day, the Negro Baseball League was founded in 1920?
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I did know that. 1920, February.
1920. Also, 1861, slavery.
1861.
1861, slavery. Ooh, I can't get that out. Was abolished in District of Columbia.
Slavery.
Right. So, yes, we are celebrating Black History Month. No.
Speaking of Black History Month, and can we reminisce again?
We can. I know where you're going with this word.
We are in an industry that is predominantly white.
White
Yes.
males.
Old
white
and
males.
White.
Old white males. Yes.
That's right. Old white males. And one thing that I always had a ton of respect for you is you've always navigated this industry very well. In fact, I remember this was probably back in I don't even know, 2015 or 2016, maybe a little bit earlier. There's an organization, financial organization that you invited me to I think it was a crawfish boil. And it was, I would say it was a time where you and I started to interact a lot more together. So you're like, hey, come, I'm the president of the organization. I think you're the president of the organization at the time.
I was the president, local chapter, president of the local chapter.
So you have a young black advisor.
So wait, before you go into that story, I'm going to give the background on it.
Okay.
So okay. I went to a national conference, and I'm in Florida. We're in Orlando, and the conference starts off with an individual who stands up on stage, and the first thing he says is, "I want you guys to look around and think about what you see." And so I'm looking around this room, and I'm the only minority in this room, and there's probably
Were you really the only black dude in that room?
Yes, I was. Not only that, but there were very few women, and there weren't any Hispanics, and probably, if I had to guess, I would say maybe 5 to 8 Asians in that room.
There could have been Hispanics. You can't. I mean, some Hispanics. Some Hispanics can blend in. We're camouflage.
True. You're absolutely correct. So I retract that. But so this young guy stands up on the stage, and after he gives us a second to think about it, he says, "This is a room of stale, pale, and male people." And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can't believe he just said that. And so he comes back and he says, "This is an industry of old white men." And he said, "Our goal as a society should be to diversify us more. We want women and we want people of color to begin joining into the industry." And so when I left that, I took that at heart, and being on the national board at the time, part of what I set out to do was to begin to diversify the industry more. I was looking for women. I was looking for minorities to begin joining not only the organization, but to come into the financial services industry. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we started talking more, and I made it a goal when I came back to New Orleans, the local chapter. Let's go ahead and bring more color, more diversity to the organization. And not just
me.
I came to you, but it was also youth. We needed to grow the organization and get younger people into the chapter. So I had a conversation last week, and Darby Barthelot and I, who's a current president, we sat back and we, the comment that Darby said was, there's not that many people under the age of 50 within the organization on a local level. So, but yes, my goal was to get you in.
Anyway, that's the context. I didn't know you had gone to some national meeting and there was some objective to diversify the organization. But we drive up, we walk in, and within 10 seconds, I turned to you and I said, "Oh my goodness, Xavier, I think we bring the average age to this room down to 73, and you're the only black dude in this place."
Mm-hmm. And what happened over the next 2 years?
We brought on a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made me the president. Yeah.
So, and we brought.
I still think that. I was just gonna say I still think we have a problem in the industry just to get more representation of. It's getting better. It's gotten a lot better. I think there's a initiative just to bring in diverse people as financial planners in our space. We've got a good friend who's an advisor out in California, and he's really involved in the CFP board and bringing diversity to the CFP space. There's not many Black or Hispanic CFPs, but anyway, it is Black History Month, and there's certainly things that we should not just celebrate in February, but certainly a time, since we started with education, let's end on education. I think it's certainly a time where we can learn from our
past.
brothers and sisters about what it's like, right?
Right.
I think that's where true education starts, is we start to understand others' perspectives, and
through understanding,
part of our stories, especially.
It's understanding everyone's situation. It's asking questions with an open mind and listening. The one thing we could do better is listen to other people's experiences, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think it's really easy for us to make large kind of scale stereotype. I'm not necessarily talking in a negative way, right? Because stereotype sometimes it's helpful to stereotype in some situations, right? Not all situations, but it's easy to say to paint a people, whatever the people group is, in broad strokes. Right. But when you start to live life and walk day by day with people of a different culture, you start to understand so much more about why things are the way they are. You start to understand why people are the way they are, right? You talked about becoming embraced by Hispanics, right? You understand Hispanic culture in a way that you didn't 4 years ago. I understand Black culture in a way that I didn't 4 years ago because of our relationship and our friendship. And anyway, I don't know how we got on to this. This is the Stuff About Money podcast, but here's what's important. Let's bring it all together. I often say that as financial advisors, we measure net worth, right? Assets minus liabilities equal net worth. My stuff, everything I own minus everything I owe. But what if we measured our net worth by the quality and quantity of relationships that we can build over our lifetime? Xavier, I have to say that, my friend, you make me Warren Buffett because of our relationship, because we've taken time to get to know each other.
And I'm glad I could do that for you.
There's not many men I've shoe shopped with, Xavier. Do you have any closing thoughts? Oh my gosh.
Go out, have a great day. Speak to someone. Go out there, listen to someone's story, talk to one person that you normally wouldn't have spoken to. When you walk in that building, say hello, because you never know what someone else is going through. You may just make their day.
You never know. Y'all, thanks for those of you who stuck around for this free-for-all podcast episode. I hope that something we said is impactful. It changes your life and changes the life of someone. Just remember that money is a really important part of life. It touches just about everything that you do, and getting your money in order is a noble thing to want to do well with your money. Thanks for listening, y'all.